Are you blind? We're ditching the labels and driving headfirst into the ultimate bourbon showdown, the blind tasting. This is where your senses reign supreme, preconceived notions get shattered, and the true spirit of bourbon takes center stage. Think you can handle it? Don't get caught blindsided. Think you know your bourbon? Prepare to have your assumptions challenged. We're diving deep into the art of blind tasting, where labels disappear and your senses take the lead. Discover how to unlock the hidden flavors, refine your palate, and finally trust your own judgment. This is your guide to conquering the blind pour and becoming a true bourbon connoisseur. The bottles are shrouded, the glasses are poured, and the tension is thick. You swirl, you sniff, you sip, but can you really guess what's in your glass? This is where the bourbon bravado meets the ultimate taste. Get ready for a blind tasting showdown that will challenge your senses and redefine your relationship with this beloved spirit. Welcome back, bourbon lovers, to Chasing the Unicorn, your quest for the perfect pour, where we're all about empowering you with the tools to find your ideal unicorn. I'm your host, John Schuster, and our hunt starts now. So today, the challenge is for blind tastings. We're going to remove some of those preconceived notions and kind of let that ego hopefully flutter into some good stuff. But labels, brand prestige, age statements, they really heavily influence our expectations. Even the color or the shape of the bottle, when we see those, can shape the opinion we have about that bourbon before we start the taste. And one of those things that we're going to focus on is the glass. So our environment and glassware really can also affect how we smell and how we taste these bourbons. So let's talk a little bit of glass shape. For instance, glass shape can emphasize or mute certain aromas. Picking up the right glass really can change the way things are when you're enjoying that drink. So some of the lighting, background noise, maybe you're sitting in front of a whole bunch of bourbon, and maybe you're sitting in a very noisy location that's more energized. When you're thinking, I want to perceive these great flavors and stuff like that. So think about the background noise, the tasting locations, and all those things are going to change the way you perceive your flavor. So one of the benefits of blind tasting, though, is it helps us develop our palate, and it also keeps us unbiased as we're starting to enjoy it. So we can do things like focus solely on the aroma, the taste, the finish, and it really encourages kind of a deeper attention to detail. Because, if you're competitive in any way, shape, or form, you're going to want to try and guess what that is. And in doing so, you're going to really reach down inside your flavor profile and think, what is this? Have I had it before? And one of the things that's interesting, though, is we do get some great surprises when we do a blind tasting. Now, it also can be extremely humbling, right? A humble bottle might outrank something that is high priced once the labels are hidden. And sometimes we just don't like that because we think, that one's so good. How could this really low priced bottle of bourbon really outweigh it? But it is a way to find some new favorites also and really challenge your assumptions. So let's look at some tips for improving your palate. I want to focus on a few individual elements. So first, let's break down aroma. A lot of the times, aromas will have a fruity or spicy flavor, and sometimes they'll be sweet or woody or herbal. And when you're looking at those aromas, you're trying to take a memory and put that to the scent so that you can understand what you're smelling. If it was something brand new to you, you'd be like, wow, I don't know what that is. Until somebody says, hey, well, I think it smells like this. And you go, ooh, I can relate to that. So aromas is one place to start. And then the next piece that you really want to focus on is the mouthfeel and the finish. Pay attention to those things like the texture, right? Is it creamy or is it oily? And does it have a lingering aftertaste? Is it something that you go, oh man, I can really feel that down in there and I'm enjoying it? Or it's kind of an odd finish to me. I'm not sure what it is. All of these things that you start thinking about, you want to put words to and see if you can articulate it the best way possible. And how do we do that? We do that through experience. So how do we get some experience? Practice, right? So let me give you some ideas here. So first I would say, host a small gathering. Taste multiple pours side by side, even if they're from the same brand, right? One of the advantages of doing multiple brands is you can get a variety of different flavor profiles within that brand and really kind of pick apart like, oh, I really enjoy how they had, more rye in this one or less rye in it, or, whatever it might be. But when you're doing this, keep a journal of those notes, right? Write down, hey, glass number 1 was, these notes. This is my aroma. This is my palate. This is my finish. And then go to the next one and then truly compare it and be honest with yourself. You know what? If you have a completely different taste profile than everybody else, that doesn't mean you're wrong. That means that that's yours and that's what you should be looking for. So keep that journal and notes and impressions and track some patterns and preferences. One of the neat things about this is when you first start out, you'll find that your level of deciphering is limited, right? But as you get a little further along, you'll start to understand, more flavor profiles, and you'll start to experience more things. And just that experience itself is a way to do it with others, where you can develop a deeper understanding of the bourbon you're trying. And when you first start out, for a lot of people, they start out with something more subtle, right? You'll stay in maybe a 90 proof or a 95 proof, something of that nature. And you'll work your way up, and eventually you'll start to try something that's a little bit out of your palate range and go, ooh, I enjoyed that. It was a higher proof, it had more complexity, whatever it might be. But you'll find what you're starting to like. And by having a journal and saying, these are the things that I've tried in the past, and I enjoyed, 1, 2, and 3, but I didn't enjoy, 4, 5, and 6, then you can look for things that are similar to 1, 2, and 3 and chase those down. Find your own unicorn through doing this. Which brings us today to our perfect pour. So today I'd like to talk about, I think, a great staple, right? So Four Roses is our perfect pour for the day, and one of the things about Four Roses is stands out of the bourbon world for its innovative approach to really crafting a nuanced flavor profile. It focuses on blending multiple yeast strains and distinct mash bills. So a little bit different, where a lot of them will focus on the barrel, where it is in the rick house or something like that. What they're trying to do is really change things up through the yeast strain and then the complexity with that mash bill and make a variety in there. In fact, the brand offers a very complex design of multiple different bourbons out there, and they mix them. That's what's so interesting about this. So what they can do is they take multiple batches and they'll mix them up and bring in some different flavors that they've designed from their mash bill or from their yeast strains or both. But this brand offers that complexity that really few other distilleries can match. They're very versatile. Four Roses is an excellent tool for exploring bourbon's hidden nuances, if you really think about it. Whether you're really an experienced taster or you're a novice, it's something that you can try and then really dive in and see, where is this leading me? What am I finding that I'm enjoying? So something interesting about Four Roses, as I mentioned, is they do kind of a mixture of things. And what they do is they use 10 different recipes. So Four Roses uses a combination of 5 yeast strains and 2 mash bills. And with that, they create 10 unique bourbon recipes. So each recipe brings its own set of flavors, ranging from fruity and floral to spicy and herbal. And it's kind of an interesting way to go. So they use mash bill B, which is 60% corn, 35% rye, 5% malted barley. It's a high rye content, and it brings a bold, spicy note. Where mash bill E is 75% corn, 20% rye, and 5% malted barley. So that higher corn percentage leads to kind of a sweeter and maybe softer profile. So those are your two. And now we move into yeast strains, and so each strain emphasizes a different characteristics. For instance, V, as in Victor, is a delicate and fruitiness. That's the flavor profile that it brings it. Or K, which is slightly spicy. Or if you do O, which is rich and fruity, and then there's Q, which has got more floral essence to it, and then F, which is herbal and more of a minty tones. Now think about mixing all of these in different ways and really dialing in the flavor profile you enjoy. We can talk about that in another one, but it's interesting though, because as they go through this blending process, they combine these recipes in varying portions to craft its flagship product. And that's including the small batch, which I have here, single barrel, small batch select, things of that nature. I've got some single barrels up on the shelf, but this blending process ensures consistency, and it delivers a lot of layers of complexity. So if you want to get yourself started out and really try some different bourbon flavor profiles, this is a great way to look at it, is start off with their small batch and then work your way up. So today we're looking at Four Roses small batch. So why the small batch? Small batch blends 4 of the 10 recipes to create a balanced and really approachable bourbon that showcases Four Roses' kind of hallmark complexity. They put it all together for you, and you're going to get that complex notes that they're bringing through all those different mash bills and yeast strains. So on the nose is very interesting. So it's a ripe red fruit. If you think about it, you get cherries and plum. It's got a great nose. And you mingle that with a little bit of honey, touch of vanilla, and what I love is at the very end of that, to me, there's cinnamon. And that cinnamon kind of gives you that hint of spice. It goes, ooh, that's going to be great. Now, the palate is very different. And I love the palate, with the complexity of this, it's really nice. But when you get to the palate, now, I've already had this many times. If you can't see the bottle online, it's down towards the bottom. But the palate on this one is silky, has a kind of a medium body, and the flavor is more caramel and baking spice. And what I really love about it is it's got this hint of apricot at the end. Kind of that, it's just an odd flavor in my taste buds enjoy, and that apricot is just kind of that little twist. But when you move on to the finish, though, the finish is smooth, it's lingering warm, and it's got that subtle bit of oak and just a trace of pepper spice, right? Not too much to really blow you out, but definitely a great way to look at it. So this one, I really enjoy it because it's perfect for blind tasting. You can throw it out there, and a lot of people will be like, oh, I enjoy this or that or all these different pieces of it. And it's a layered profile, right? So they've got fruity, they've got spicy, they've got floral elements. They make it really ideal for challenging your palate during that blind tasting. So if you don't drink it on a regular basis, this one really throw you for a loop. But the advantage is you start to learn and experience more. So each sip really offers you some opportunity to detect subtle nuances. And if you're unfamiliar with, how long it should sit out and things of that nature, I covered that in another episode. But, if you've let this sit for a little bit, you're going to get a lot of those variety and nuances once you get rid of the ethanol, right? Let that ethanol vapor just kind of dissipate a bit and really enjoy it. So I think this is a great learning opportunity. So the nuances in the bourbon for Four Roses really highlights how the factors like a mash bill and yeast strains influence that flavor. The likely attributed to the Q, the yeast strain, right? That floral aroma, spicy undertones from that high rye mash bill, and a little bit of that K strain, and then you get that fruity note, which is enhanced by the O or the V strains. So all things that you can go, oh, now I understand as I'm picking these pieces up. So let me give you a couple tips, all right? When you're looking at this, explore your Four Roses. Compare the expressions. Taste a Four Roses small batch alongside maybe a single barrel or a small batch select, right? And experience how the varying recipes influence the flavor. And one thing that you'll know is when you get to the single barrels, the single barrel will have its own batch label. It'll tell you what's in there, and you can pick different ones based on more spice, less spice, fruity, whatever it might be. And then you can compare that with their standard small batch, which I have here. So when you select this, really focus on those varying recipes and try and decipher which one's which. So, and then try the same expression in different settings, right? So maybe you're, home after a hard day at work and you really want to sit back and relax, and then try it, by changing the music. Music is a great way to either increase or decrease your energy levels. So if you want that subtle note, put some jazz or something like that on in the background and really kind of, find yourself diving into it. But then if you want to try and see, what am I going to pick up if it's really high energy? If I'm in a bar that's got a lot of energy and sounds and things like that, I go to a concert or something of that nature and I want to pick this up, what am I going to enjoy out of it? So when you do this, though, focus on the nuances, right? Look for that little bit of interplay of the sweet and spicy elements and the kind of the evolution of that floral aroma and how that finish reveals that hint of oak and brings up a little bit of herbal notes, right? When you're going through this, these are the things that you're thinking about as you're going into it. And then when you expand into that limited edition piece, right? If you can find it, of course, but they have a limited edition small batch offerings for that deeper dive into kind of a rare recipe and unique blends. And so when you do that, then you can take what you've learned from this one and really enjoy that great pour that you found. So Why is this a perfect bourbon for tasting? I just think the blending of all the yeast strains and the mash bills really allows us to experience a wide range of flavors all in one pour, right? This, to me, is a go-to choice for anybody looking to refine their palate and better understand bourbon's complexity. Now, you notice one thing that I haven't said. This is a great bourbon, you should be drinking it. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is this may or may not be your bourbon. It may be your perfect pour, it may not be. But by trying this and trying to dive deep into this bourbon, you can pick up the complexities. And maybe it's not your favorite pour. Maybe it's just something that you're using to expand your palate and really enjoy the process of that blind tasting. So let's talk about a little fun, right? So if you're doing some blind tastings, the nice thing about them, in my opinion at least, is they really spark some lively conversation and really good-natured debate. If everybody plays well, of course. But, when you're getting into there and somebody says kind of off that wall tasting note and you go, wow, I've never heard that one before, that's so funny, you really get that conversation going. Now, something that you could do is create some friendly competition, right? Award points for the accurate guess or most colorful flavor descriptions, things like that. So keep a little score pad, make it interesting with you and your friends in order to kind of really dive into it, because the idea is to focus on your palate and your experience and then have that camaraderie and that enjoyment. So one thing that I will say is mistakes happen. Laugh about them, because they make the learning better. And if you are completely off base on this, don't worry about it. Nobody really cares. It's for you, and it's for your opportunity to kind of just enjoy some time together. So let me give you an example of how to start tasting. And these are some basics, not going to break the bank. It's just a great way, and one of the things that we use in some of the classes that we teach is how to kind of get a broad spectrum of different types of bourbons without breaking the bank, and some reasonable selections. So here's what I want you to do. Start your tasting with these 4. And of course, when you pour it, you're going to have somebody else pour it or move them around or whatever it's going to be. But start off with some Evan Williams Black Label. Now, I'm talking $30 to $40 bottles, maybe a little less if you can find them on a great deal, but these 4 bourbons are going to be some good choices to understand different expressions. So again, Evan Williams Black Label. The next one I want you to try is Old Forester 86. And these are going to be lower in your proof points also. And then the third one is Bullet. Pick yourself up a good standard Bullet bourbon. And then the fourth one is Maker's Mark. Now, when you do Maker's Mark, don't go out and get the, double oaked and all these different things. Just get the standard Maker's Mark and go from there. You could get the Maker's Mark 46, but you're going to get more oak, and it's really going to change things. So you want to get something that's more consistent and in the bourbon range without a lot of finishing. And by doing this, start it out, right? Label your glasses, pour the drinks, share with everybody, try one, everybody talk about it, go to the next one, everybody talk about it, go all the way through all 4, and then reveal, right? Which one is which one did you enjoy most? Get all those answers before everybody's opinions are made about, oh, I know this is X or Y. And once that bottle comes out, then everybody's going to kind of join in on, oh, I really loved that one, or I was blown away. But these are how you really start to experience a different flavor profile and expand your palate as you go. So bottom line is some blind tastings. They can be both very humbling and empowering. By hiding that bottle, we really strip away those marketing and preconceived ideas. Allows that bourbon to really shine on its own merits. And whether you're sampling a, 4 Roses expression or some other whiskeys that you're exploring, the goal is really to cultivate an open and curious approach to each sip. Think about it. Write down what you're enjoying and then remember that if you can, or go back to it. But the key takeaway here really is stay open-minded. Flavor often defines your initial expectations, and so if you aren't focused on what it is, then you'll be able to enjoy that. And then think about your sensory awareness. Concentrate on your aromas, your taste, your mouthfeels, that finish. Really think about those things. And practice. Have fun with this. Turn this into a social event. Keep the notes on what you really find delighting and those things that surprise you. And go from there so that you can take it to the next level and find a new 4 to try and just do this with your friends. Or, you know what? Host a local party for, whatever events that you're normally at. So let me tell you this, though. Bourbon enthusiasts, this is a wrap to the episode, and I'd like to encourage you to share your bourbon wisdom with us. So join the conversation on social media using hashtag Chasing the Unicorn, and tell us all about your favorite thoughts of this episode. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss an episode, and you can find us on Spotify, iHeartRadio, YouTube, and Amazon Music. And connect with us on social media. Just search for Chasing the Unicorn Podcast. And until next time, keep chasing that unicorn. This has been a Drunken Unicorn production brought to you by the folks who love chasing the perfect pour. And maybe we get a little tipsy along the way, but until next time, sip, savor, and enjoy. Cheers.